We're excited to announce that we've joined the Creator Accountability Network, CAN. CAN is a nonprofit dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We join because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. If you feel our behavior or content has harmed someone, please report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline, 617-249-4255. They'll help us make it right and avoid repeating that mistake in the future. CAN also needs volunteers from our communities to help with their process. So if you have skills you think will be helpful, or time and a desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. Most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. Help us build safer communities together. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
All right, Alex.
Episode 101.
Episode 101.
Wow.
Yeah. So, tonight's topic is one-sided friendships, and or friendship, unbalanced friendships is what the title is going to be. Unbalanced friendships. Are you the only one putting in effort? So I want to talk about one-sided friendships. But let me explain. I mentioned in the chat with you and Matthew earlier.
I was just reading it
about that, and I was, I'm sure I'll have to tell Matthew, since he doesn't listen to the episodes he's not on. But originally he was going to be on this episode. We only found out like 10 minutes ago that he wasn't. So the thing that kind of brought this to my attention, and it feels like I'm going to throw somebody under the bus, which they don't deserve, but so I was talking about to Sarah the other day. I said, about you and Matthew, and like how I'm really happy about having good friendships down here. And I said, if I knew Alex and Matthew 10 years ago when we got married, our anniversary was this past weekend. And I said, if I knew Matthew and Alex when we got married, I think I would have had them be groomsmen. And I know, so I had 8 groomsmen, which is a lot, but you have to match your wife, or you're supposed to match your wife. And she had 8
I was about to say, do you? Because I didn't.
And so I had 8, which and there are 2 of them that I don't talk to anymore, 10 years in, and neither one is like a bad friendship thing. One of them was we lost him in a divorce when he divorced his wife. His wife was Sarah's high school friend. We kind of lost him. We all kind of wish we had kept him and not her, but that's not the way it works. But there's no hard feelings there. Every once in a while on LinkedIn, I've talked to him or whatever, but it, and so there's no hard feelings there. And then the other groomsman that I don't really talk to anymore is, he got really religious as I was becoming an atheist. Ooh. And I think that kind of we still have talked, but it was getting more awkward, to talk. And I wish him well, and I don't know, these aren't friendships where it was some bad thing happened. And when I say one-sided relationship, it's not entirely fair to say it was a one-sided relationship. The one thing is that when I moved down here, I would call him, that particular friend, I would call him fairly often. And, you get busy. And as I would get busy, I wouldn't call him, and he never called me. And then one time I texted him and said, hey, but haven't talked to you in a while. And he was like, it's been too long to just text. And I was like, oh. I'm like, but you've never reached out to me.
Right.
It wasn't you know what I mean? It wasn't I've ignored him. It was I hadn't made the effort. I had made the effort, and he never made the effort. But
telephones working both ways, bub.
Yeah. And I will say that for the most part in my life, I think that the one-way relationship thing is personally probably more with certain family members than with friends. But there are examples of friends where I don't make enough of an effort. Life's busy, and you get in. It's and I also think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think sometimes, and maybe it's not as gendered as I think, but like sometimes with guys, we can pick up and it's the same as it was if we haven't talked in 3 years. So like I have
Yeah,
a really good friend,
that's true.
Kevin, who Kevin and I don't talk very often, but when we do, it's it's not like anything has happened or changed. Like there's no awkwardness there. There's no I don't I at least I'm not perceiving any on my side. Um, I do joke with Sarah that I don't want him to call because the last 3 times he's called, it's been to tell me someone died. and
Uh,
but like it's but it so like ultimately that's like not a one-sided friendship thing. It's just more of a
yeah,
he's got a he's got a 2-year-old or a 1.5. I don't know. He's got a toddler, and our lives get busy, but
yeah,
but I think, yeah, I just kind of felt like, oh, this is a topic we haven't really discussed yet, and I think that everybody can kind of relate from one
hmm
side or the other to having a friend where you're like, yeah, if I stopped calling them or I stopped texting them, it would just fade out.
oh, okay. That's kind of the definition of the one-sided then. I mean, it really
Yeah,
is at that point.
yeah.
Um, what what do you think? How should I ask this? What do you think you were getting out of it? Like, did you have any immediate benefit from this, or did they? Or was it really just some fear of retribution? You just felt like you had to be cordial kind of thing? Like, what was it for you guys?
I think
You did it for something.
I honestly think I just feel like a sense of guilt or impending dread about like I've had friendships that have just fallen by the wayside. Especially like you make a work friend. I know that you and I are work friends, but I don't. You are not this. But you make a work friend, and when you're at work, sometimes you feel like you're really good friends, and then you never hang out outside of work, but you feel like you're really good friends, and then
Yeah.
you stop working together, and all of a sudden you don't talk to that person anymore. And so I'm aware of those kind of relationships mostly from that situation. And I don't want that to happen with, like my friend Kevin is, I feel bad because Kevin I think Kevin would be there in a minute if I asked him to be there for something, and I would do what I could for him. Like I think our friend, we just don't talk that much.
I was about to say, so where is this going?
Well,
What's the
I just feel
vibe?
bad. I feel bad that I keep mentioning him by name. But
Oh, come
like,
on, people are people, dude. We gotta talk
yeah.
about them.
But I think that there's just like a sense of like I don't want, like Kevin and I met in college, and other friends like that. I don't want my string of like people that I don't know anymore to keep piling up. And I get that happens with it happens with jobs. I got someone that started working with me before that I worked with before you and I started working, but same company.
Hmm.
Uh, when she was working there, we would go to lunch a bunch, her and a couple of us. And she one day said to me, "Well, you'll be at my funeral, right?" And I said, I don't know. Are we still working here when you die? And in this hypothetical, and she's like, well, "Why does that matter?" And I said, "Because like I've had lots of work friends that once you stop working together, they're just somebody you used to know. Like you're not
Yeah.
like there's people that I don't know anymore. And then there's the rant. Like there's actually I have a good example of a friend who she and I worked at Home Depot when I was 20 years old, and we turned 21 while we were working at Home Depot together,
Hmm.
and we have not hung out, and we do not talk on. I don't even have her phone number or anything.
Hmm.
And but like when I did an event in Massachusetts within the 6 months or so before I moved away from Massachusetts, and I just put out like a random Facebook invite. She was one of like 5 people that showed up. So like, she arguably in that relationship, she's the one doing all the work, and I'm not. But
Okay.
like, but I do also know that at that same job, I worked with a ton of people who. There's a couple people I don't even remember their last names. Like, and people that I really liked and hung out with, and I can't remember all their names. And so I think this is one of those situations where we've all had it done to us, and we're all guilty of it.
Yeah, I've even when I was a adolescent, and somewhat less now that I'm married, but still the thought process is there. People fall into three general buckets. There's I want to sleep with you. I want to sleep with you and I have no chance to, and everybody else. And I've realized that what that really was is I'm somehow intrigued or interested by you and I have influence,
Mm-hmm.
and then I same but don't have influence.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm married and I'm not having casual sex with people on a regular basis who are all different partners, I'm I'm realizing that I've kind of broken. It's still three buckets, but they're just different. There's the I'll nod at you if I see you in public. I want to talk with you if I see you in public, and you're genuine friend. Like the
Yeah.
first two of those buckets are usually acquaintances, partners of friends. I'm in a bourbon club and I know all of their wives, and I'm not trying to like hang out with them. Actually,
Yeah.
for that matter, I'm not trying to hang out with almost anybody who's a member of the club because we do not share the same political ideology. Not
Yeah.
100%, but enough that I'm not trying to be all up in their free time. So the
Yeah.
one-sided friendships for me, I distance myself from them when I feel them coming.
Okay.
When I was younger, before I was treated for my handicap and my mental illness, it was I was so afraid of people not liking me that I was the effort of the one-sided friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, there's a perfect example. You and I have coworkers. You are a genuine friend and would be regardless of where we worked, regardless of our ages, unless I was like a complete dick to you when the first couple times we met, and I even think we would have probably moved past that. You're
Yeah.
genuine. You're different to me. Whereas everybody else there, I have a hard time believing if they're being kind and cordial because they have to work with me or because they want to be that way with me. And that's different. That changes my perception. And
Yeah.
I've gone from being the high effort of the two friends to now avoiding ever being the high effort friend and just being like, hi, how are you? Yeah, my weekend was great. Like, I don't even want to have those conversations. I dislike having those conversations because I know they're vapid. I know they're
Yeah.
senseless. And my handicap, I believe, is every once in a while, my superpower is I don't give two shits about stupid stuff with people. And I don't
Yeah.
have many of those friendships that are one sided now. I really don't. Do you have that many now that you're older? Or did you have more when you were younger?
I don't. I don't have that many more now that I'm older. I also like have a lot less tolerance for bullshit.
Yeah.
For a long time, I think I kept in friendships that weren't good for me because of a sense of, this is weird, but probably it's like a weird sense of pride
Yeah.
that I remember at one point running into somebody. This would have been 10 to 15 years ago, roughly 10 to 15 years ago. Ran into someone from high school, and they were like, "Oh, do you see anybody from high school?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I see Pat and Wes and Gia and Kim," and I like listed off a bunch of people. I'm like, I see them all the time. Like it, we all lived in different places, so Christmas and New Year's or whatever holiday we were all arranged for. But I see them regular. Like these aren't people I run into when we're all
Right.
home at like shopping. These are people I make a point of going out with. That list has changed. But at the time when I said it, they're like, "Oh man, I talked to like one person still," and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And I remember there being this weird pride of like, I kept my high school friends, and then
That
after I
no,
thought
that's
that,
definitely prideful because I have one, maybe
well,
two. Like I'm
a
serious that I
lot of
even
it,
still talk to.
yeah, a lot of it has changed. So like one of the friends that I listed on when I was talking to them, she and I don't talk anymore because I felt like she was using me. Her husband didn't like me because she and I dated for 2 weeks in high school, and
Oh,
like
get over it. That's
yeah,
never going to bring you any kind of happiness.
no,
Either of you cut that off.
no, and so like I cut it off because I felt like she would like it felt so transactional when she would get in touch with me, and so I cut that off. Another friendship fell apart for a few years. It actually randomly because he heard Matthew and I on a podcast, not on talking about the big stuff, but we did a shout out on Scathing Atheist. He heard it and he was like, "I wonder how Mike's doing," and he like basically reached out to a mutual friend to get back in touch with me
Hmm.
because I had ended it because things weren't great. And so, but like a lot of those friendships that I had been like so proud of had fallen apart, and I was like, I don't want more. I don't want to be the guy who just leaves a wake of people who he spent a really good summer with, or you know what I mean, like, and now I'm realizing that's natural and it's kind of common, and it's like, like
No, it
there's
totally
these people in
is.
our lives that we don't. The best example I can think of, which I didn't think of at the time, and it has clicked in my head and it's kind of helped me to not be this way, is my sister and I went on a safari with the two older aunts that were at my birthday party. They took us
Hmm.
on safari in Africa when I was almost 14 and Sam was 12. And while we were there, we were on a tour with a big tour group, and there was one other kid who was like 2 months older than me, and we got along really well for the 3 weeks or whatever we were on this tour with him, and his name was Tommy, and that's all I remember about him. I have some pictures because we have pictures from the tour, and for those 3 weeks, you feel like you're bonded in a way, like, oh, like this is like a best friend. We've never spoken to him since. Like I've never like I don't know his last name. I don't know how to look him up. None of that. And I realize that that's common.
I
Like
have one of those too.
you you're gonna work a summer job at like work a summer job at Home Depot or a golf course or whatever, and you're gonna make these relationships that it's like a reality show where it's like, yeah, you're spending all your time together for a short period of time, so it heightens all your emotions around it in the moment, and I had to realize that that's not the same as you know I see you and I see Matthew for 3 to 4 hours a week
Hmm.
virtually at most.
Yeah.
Occasionally there's like a random event where it'll be a little bit more, but like on average, as opposed to I'm stuck in like in a job like, and I think retail suits it better in some ways than like corporate, where you're like, it feels like, and Sarah probably feels this way about because she was a waitress and a bartender for years before she got her current job. Like I feel like those service industry jobs, you feel like it's us versus them kind of thing, and you just
Yeah.
bond in a way, but it's temporary, and it doesn't mean that like if I
Yeah, it's
ran
true.
into somebody from that I wouldn't be like, hey, it was good seeing you, but like it's never gonna rekindle like a friendship.
No, and I came from the service industry. I spent a decade in restaurants and bars, going from back of house, which for those uninitiated, that's the kitchen, to front of house, where I was a beverage manager, a bar and beverage manager for a restaurant group, and the insanity of what the restaurant industry is And I really believe it's insanity because you're serving that many people food and drinks in 4 hours.
Hmm.
It's genuinely nuts. It is. It's genuinely nuts.
Yeah.
And those kind of friendships do bud and grow during those times because you, as a human, are going to quickly try to find other humans that you can sympathize and empathize with
Hmm.
because you're put in these super crazy, stressful situations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Adam. Adam and I. I know you haven't met Adam. He does exist, though, despite what Matthew says.
I was about to
Uh,
say, apparently he doesn't exist. I was producing the last episode, and he
he
might
worked.
be
He
unreal.
he worked at Verizon with me.
You
Him
did
and my
not work at Verizon.
Yep,
So did I.
nice.
Yeah.
We worked at, but not for. So we worked for
Oh, you were a
their.
third-party reseller.
No. We were the tech support in an actual Verizon store. At that time, was outsourced. So like the
Oh, what was your
salespeople,
local company?
Flextronics.
Flextronics. Yeah, they all had like local companies that would staff those guys, and they would always wear like
Oh,
different. Did yours wear different color polos than
we
everybody
had we
else?
had burlap. It wasn't
What
really
the
burlap, but
fuck?
it wasn't really burlap, but it looked so much like burlap.
We wore
Um,
coffee bags while they wore red polos.
yeah, no, Flextronics was pretty national because I worked there in Colorado, and then I transferred to Massachusetts,
Mhm.
and it was funny too because the West Coast Flextronics got laid off when I was I was on vacation, and I got a text from a couple of friends that worked in the Colorado one. They were like, "We just got told that the contract is ending." So I went back in like the following week, and
So
was
that
and said
must
to
have been
the
when they started going house.
yeah, and I said to the
Yeah,
store manager, and she's like, "Oh, that's a completely different process on the West Coast. That's never going to happen here." And I was like, "It is obviously going to happen
and
here."
it did.
And it took a year, and
Yeah.
then we were gone too. But
So the nuts of retail and service will
yeah,
bring that out in people
yeah,
because I had a bunch of relationships in the food service industry because I was also usually the elder
hmm,
to a lot of these folks, and especially because I was in like leadership positions. I was 5 to 10 years their senior, and I could hang with them. I could I could do drugs with them. I could
yeah,
drink with them. I could usually outdrink a bunch of them. That's
yeah,
not a talent. Don't try to get better at it. And it's just I realized it wasn't the best thing for me either. And I'm a
hmm,
decent salesperson, so I was able to easily get jobs in this industry
yeah,
because I could sweet talk my way into it, just like I could sweet talk my way into a one-sided friendship.
yeah,
But now that I'm older, like I mean this. When you were saying this is the episode you want to do, like I'm trying to think of how many of these one-sided relationships I have, and I think my dog is the only one-sided friendship that I got. And the only reason I think it's that way is because that furry little fucker can't talk.
yeah,
That's like the only reason I think that's one sided because he seems to love me. He seems to have affection for me, but he might just be doing it because I feed and walk him.
yeah,
And I scritch him every once in a while, and I trim his toes, and I trim his coat, like that kind of stuff. So there's
yeah,
there's this I don't know there. I think the one-sided friendship for me when I was younger, it was because I was afraid of not being liked.
hmm,
My high school and middle school was a hellscape and a cesspool of insecurity, unsure, anxiety, just like sadness all the time. So I was constantly in and out of different social groups just to just to vie for any kind of attachment.
yeah,
And now that I'm older, now I'll criticize my wife for having these. I will. She knows our turbo nerd neighbors, and I think they're really neat people if that's your bag, but it's not mine. I have no desire to have conversations with them. I want to troll them because they're funny to me because they're so unaware of what's going on around them.
yeah,
My wife will have full on freaking conversations with them. I'm like, what? Why do you do this? If the zombie apocalypse comes, they're the first ones getting eaten. If someone comes to rob us, they're robbing them first. We'll have a chance to run. Like there's this idea that she has of just kindness that I don't have, but she has some of the same mental illness challenges that I have, like attracts like. And she might be doing it for the reason I did when I was younger. Is she wants that sense of community because she's afraid of being left behind. My brother's wife, same thing. It was so hard to get her to buy a house because she was scared to leave an apartment complex because she loved that transactional sense of community that brought her. Mike, I am telling you, there are people at our office that I make no effort to go say hi to, and it's because I don't like them. 10 years ago?
For patrons, let's start guessing.
Right. For patrons, who isn't? And now I'll walk right by them and not even tip my hat. But before, I mean it, 10, 12 years ago, Mike, I would be like, oh my gosh, I have to say hi to everybody, or that person might think that I'm not liking them, or I'll treat them differently. Bucko, if I don't like you, I'm not going to be rude to you because I am not a rude, mean person. But you have very few opportunities to catch my interest. I was just talking to a coworker at work about this. Mr. Dixon, who's right around the corner from the canteen, and I said my wife was watching me on Monday, like fall asleep at the desk here because just I was so unexcited about what work was about. I was bored out of my ever loving like busy work mind, and it's because my handicap, which is I have ADHD and autism, I have to be super enthralled and into what I'm doing, or I don't give one redheaded shit. And unfortunately, that goes to work. But I think that sort of moved into my one-sided relationships. Now that my anxiety side is treated and I can make the voice in my head calm and I can hear myself think, I have no desire to be nice to that person. So if I walk by the whole sales team and point at every one of them and say good morning, and they want to talk to me, the ones that are fake and talk to me one week but don't the next and then don't ever after, why am I going to even like, hey, no, I'm not. Screw you. Like, I'm not, it's not like I'm mad at you. It's that I think you're an adult and you don't care two shits either. Fine with me.
Yeah.
So my take is my current one-sided relationships are because I genuinely have something there and I'm trying to grow it.
Yeah.
My old one-sided relationships, I was the fool putting all the effort in because I was so afraid of not having friends. Like I mean afraid of not having friends. Like I cried over it as a teenager because I thought like there wouldn't be anybody to go to the dance with. Like that was me.
Yeah. I think that if I were to look at all my relationships right now, I don't think that I could
Are we
point to
talking
one.
about us as lovers or us as friends?
All of the above. I don't think that I can look at a relationship that I'm in and go, "Oh, I'm doing all the work." I worry.
You're right. I don't feel like that now for them.
I worry sometimes that there are relationships where I'm not doing my share of the work.
Do you feel guilt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I
What's that like? And I'm not meaning that to be funny or facetious. What is that like?
It is.
Is it the same like if you did something to make your wife upset, or is it a different kind of guilt?
In this case, guilt is fear that I like. So I'll give you an example. Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
I worried for a while that Matthew did everything in the relationship for me and that I did not return because I'm like, hey, I'm doing a podcast. Want to get on the podcast? Hey, I'm doing this. Want to do this? And I felt that way. Yeah. And yeah, I feel that way about you, but I'm using Matthew as an example because it's
That's
and I
fair.
it's been going on for 6 years.
Yeah,
I've known
exactly.
Matthew for
Much
6.5
longer.
years, and so with Matthew, I was like, oh, like what if he thinks that I'm a mooch? Like what if? And like it was never
Yeah.
like a matter of like, hey Matthew, can I borrow $10? It was always more a matter of like, hey, and and he lives so close that like there were times where he would get our mail if I we were going away, he'd grab the mail for us and he'd do, and I felt like, oh shit, like I'm not pulling my weight, and this is somebody I really care about who I don't want to lose. I don't want them to get fed up with me the way that I would get fed up if someone
Okay.
was doing this to me, and that's where the guilt kind of.
Is that a different guilt than if you did something to make your wife upset, like you forgot to pick up something on the way home? Like it's what I mean guilt is because there's guilt to for me, I can separate guilt to friends and guilt to family.
Yeah.
I can divide those two, and my difference is how it's selfish, but it's how I feel. So if I make Holly, my wife, upset, I'm actually sad that I made her let down. I
Yeah.
feel sad that I made her like believe less in my ability,
Mm-hmm.
or believe less that I could tow my weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could care less about how she feels because I feel like shit about what happened. Whereas, like, if I forget to do something that's work, I will go as far as to creatively spin my answer so that I sound like I'm sad, but I don't care. I don't. I didn't get to it because it wasn't a priority. And it's not
Yeah.
because I'm mean. I just didn't get to it because it wasn't a priority because there's only just so many of these hands, this brain, and this body to do the work in the time that I have.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't feel remorse. That's what I'm looking for. I feel remorse if I make Holly upset. I feel zero remorse for other people. Like, I don't even feel the way with my brother because my brother has done stuff to test my patience and test
Yeah.
my relationship with him. And example, I don't feel like that with my mother because my mother is just the biggest, just martyr saint of a person I have ever met in my life. You could shiv her in the liver and she'd say, "What did I do to make you so mad at me?" Like she genuinely doesn't see
Mm-hmm.
any bad in people. And even when she sees bad in, she goes out her goddamn way to be kind to them. And I mean out of her way.
Yeah.
So, like,
I think my
I
guilt.
don't feel guilt like that. And
I,
and and it makes me feel a bit shallow, but I'd rather be honest about it.
honestly, mine is not based on the person as much as the sometimes I feel like, oh god, I'm gonna, like they're not gonna think, they're gonna not want to be friends with me anymore, or they're not, there's the
That was when that was me when I was younger. It was,
there
oh my
are
god, they don't want to be friends. Yeah.
there's repercussion based guilt.
Hmm.
But I also like, I have hurt people, and when I and like that doesn't go away, and like I I have a very specific one in mind. I don't want to mention the person, but it's been like almost 20 years since this incident happened, and I still am friends with this person. And I
Oh,
did something really mean to them 20 years ago, and I don't. And I realized, oh, at a certain point, I was like, oh, I'm just never gonna feel okay about that. Like I'm never gonna get.
oh yeah.
I don't think about it very often anymore. But like when I like think about it, I feel like, oh yeah, you were a piece of shit, like me. Like I
Are
was a
are you, because this is me. Do you have a gender bias to these friends?
no,
So you don't have more of this kind or female and more of this kind or male.
I don't think so.
I have a dead ass gender bias. So first of all, I don't have many friends that are dudes. I just don't.
Yeah,
When I was younger, those three buckets. I can sleep with you and I'm into you. I'm into you and you'll never give me the time of day. Other. Like those first two, I would still try to be friends with all of these women. And for me, I'm still like wicked close with two of them. Hell, one of them was at my wedding. She was my best person. And she's when you were saying, you got to match the number of folks. I had my brother-in-law, who is now my brother-in-law, wasn't at the time, my real brother, and I had 3.
Yeah.
She had like 6. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And she didn't either. But like, I was supposed to be there for when this girl put her dog down. And I fell asleep because I was up too late the night before, probably playing video games or jerking off or something. And I didn't have to work that day. So my normal brain went, oh, immediate sense, I don't got to worry about it. And then I didn't answer the phone, and we didn't talk for like 7 months. And then she's at my wedding, and she's one of my closest female friends. And then the other one, I actually dated this girl. And it was long before I was treated. This girl was vile to me in front of other people. And she's not that way now. So that mean side where I give people that like very fine line of you've broken my trust, it's just as easy to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
So the one-sided friendship for me also has an ebb and flow between the people or between both sides of that.
Yeah.
So I knew that I had to give a one-sided friendship to my close friend that was at my wedding, because if I didn't, I was going to genuinely not only be disrespectful by not being kind to her, but also lose her as a friend completely. And then the girl that was just mean as hell to me that I dated in high school, hell, my wife and I talked to her on the phone for like an hour over the weekend, just because she's a cool ass chick and she wants to talk about stuff. And she's got 2 daughters, and she just recently got divorced, and she's in a new relationship. We were hearing all kinds of stuff. And she even says to my wife, Alex used to only have friends that were girls. And Holly said, it's kind of like that now, I'll be honest. She goes, Mike is his closest dude friend that's here. And that's true. The other close dude friend I have is another one that I used to work with at a previous job. And I'm super close to him. He was also at my wedding. But like, these are people that are few and far between. It's mostly girls. And Holly is the first one that I can have a 2-way relationship with, because, how should I say this? Because she's not judgmental of all of my friends being females. Mm-hmm. She's actually more curious on why I used to have friends like the way I did. She's like, why are you now more cut and dry with your friends? And I said, I don't do social kindness. Mike, I cannot tell you how many times I will type a super direct, very factual statement and have to like add a line in our online messenger and then put, good morning, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm fucking typing this. I don't care how they are. Their answer will not change a single thing in my life. Just answer my question. But I know that's how I have to play.
Yeah. I don't mind those kind of social like
when
rules.
You say mind, you don't mind hearing them or you don't mind doing them?
I don't mind doing those particular social routines. I don't know if I've ever ranted to you about this, but my social routines that I don't like are the ones that are obviously horseshit. So like,
saying good morning is horseshit. I don't care if you had a good morning or not.
Yeah,
like,
but
I'm not trying to be rude. I don't.
It's like
I need you for something. You're functional to me.
I understand that, but for me, the social things you have to do that I just cannot wrap my brain around and make myself do them properly are like when you're getting interviewed for a job.
I was going to say, example, please.
and the question is asked, what is your weakness, or what can you what is your greatest weakness?
It is such a bad interview question.
It is a terrible interview question.
It doesn't tell you anything.
And it drives me crazy because it is essentially like, okay, now you say the thing that we've all agreed you have to say, that we all agree is not true, and you have to say it. Which is the like, my worst habit is that I care too much.
Yes, I did.
And I'm like, no, like,
No, it's not.
I would try to craft like things that I thought sounded good that
Uh-huh.
answered the question honestly. So I would be like, well, if I'm being honest, sometimes I have to be reminded that it can't be perfect and you got to let it go. Or I would try to think of a way of wording it. And Sarah and the recruiter that I used to work with that got me the job, they would be like, nobody wants to hear that. You got to just say the thing. And I'm like, but I don't want to say the thing. Like, we all know it's horseshit. It would be like if every time, no offense, if every time I saw you, we all agreed that I had to say, hi, Alex, handsomest man on earth. Like, we know that's not true. Why am I saying it every fucking time? Or, like, or, hi, Mike, biggest cock on earth. And it'd be like,
I'm Big Dick Dan. Let's
okay.
not get it twisted. You've seen Idiocracy, right?
Yes, I have.
Holly just saw it last night for the first time, and you're saying every time I see you, I had to say this. It reminds me of the dude that has to say "brought to you by Carl's Jr." And he
Yeah.
said the reason I say that is because every time they do, they pay me. So some of what you just mentioned is what I don't like either. So, for example, it's not that I don't care if they had a good morning. I actually care, but I know in this instance, these words are Swiss cheese. They are as weak as water. They don't hold any substance. They are just they're
Oh,
they're the
okay.
jazz hands of typing. Like they don't do anything.
So
Whereas
I agree with you. So like when you see somebody in the morning and you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" and you're expecting them to say, "Fine, thank you, good, thank you." I
that's boring to me. I don't
Yeah. If you're having a bad
surprise me
day,
and
tell
tell
me.
me. Yeah, surprise me and give me some shit.
Yeah,
Like
like
oh god, when I was oh god, when I was in retail and I wasn't treated, I was a mean son of a bitch, and I I would answer honestly, like, oh well, how are you? Well, and it would usually be like some depressing shit because that's what was going on in my head, and that social media joke of what is it when you let the inner voice something, what is it, um the intrusive thoughts, that's what it would
just
be.
thoughts.
So I just said the intrusive thing out loud because it was what my head was screaming.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex, how are you today? I actually really hope the girl in lumber is wearing her tights again. And they'd be like, wow, okay. I'm like, what, she doesn't have a nice ass? Like, no, she does, but why can't you just say, fine, thanks? It's because you didn't ask me. You asked me, are you having a good day? And my answer was, yes, I'll have a better day if she's wearing tights. Like, it
Yeah.
was the silliest shit because I operate on a very moment to moment basis, especially when I was younger. The only thing that matters to me is what's dead in front of my face. I have
Fupa.
garbage long term memory. What? So for me, because I only care about what's right in front of me at that very moment, I let intrusive thoughts out loud when I was younger. And when I say younger, guys, I'm 40 now. I mean when I was 30. Like younger for me, my mental health actually being a priority has only been like the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I I was an HR like liability when I was like
Oh
my
yeah.
30s.
Oh.
So
Oh yeah.
I had one-sided friendships everywhere because it was the way that I managed to not get fired from a
Yeah.
lot of jobs because I had to befriend that manager or that team lead or that middle manager shift leader, whatever the you want to call that stupid corporate BS of their you trust them enough to have sort of a job, but you don't trust them enough to actually deliver any like HR information.
Yeah.
Team lead, in other words. And
Yeah.
and like it was it, it was the only way I kept half my jobs
Yeah.
because I was mean, high, drunk, rude to customers, lazy, and because I have ADHD, it's not laziness, it's just hyperfixation, and that other thing doesn't matter to me anymore. But
Hmm.
on the outside, it looks to be lazy. And just it was so much of I have one-sided friendships because they served me something.
Mhm.
It wasn't for my like I actually don't think, Mike, that I had them because they made me feel good. I think I had them because it like made bad stuff not happen to me.
Yeah.
That's actually depressing. Oh shit. Sorry, all you people when I was 20 and 30 that are probably never going to listen to this. I actually don't hate you. I actually either wanted to sleep with you, thought you were pretty and couldn't sleep with you, or you served no purpose to me. So maybe there are a few of them that I didn't really care about. Sorry about that.
So as far as the categories of women of want to sleep with, don't want to
Oh, bro,
sleep
this
with.
is everybody. This wasn't even women.
Oh yeah,
I literally approached everybody like this. So unfortunately, you saw where all the men fell.
yeah,
I don't care. Like,
yeah. So I have never felt that way specifically. Like I've never felt like, oh, I can't be. Like my attractedness to somebody has not affected my
my
friendship with them.
attractiveness. How many
But
friends I have is how good looking
yeah,
I
but no, my attractedness, the
Attractiveness.
my attraction. There we go. That's the word.
Ah.
My attraction has never defined a relationship. It's or it never defined the quality of a relationship. Sometimes I will categorize within that. So like, um, so I. First of all, when I was let's talk about single Mike because married Mike's a lot different. But single Mike had two modes when it came to women: wanted to sleep with them, or they were blood relatives. That was it. Um, like there was really no in between
Did you
there.
close a lot when you were younger, or was it just a lot of like you wanted to but didn't materialize?
I closed a decent amount. So we talk about these like super weird relationships that you have in retail or service industry when
Oh, I had
you're
sex with so many coworkers in both of
that
those. Oh
that's what
my
I was just about to say
gosh.
is at one
Oh
point.
my gosh.
So Verizon, I'm trying to think, was it 3 or 4 women? I forget. But when I met Sarah, I was working with 2 women I had slept with, and one of them had one of and another woman that I had slept with was like had either just left. I forget what the deal was, but so like it was a lot. There was it was just it's you're able to drink and do stuff. You don't have any responsibilities.
You have a car.
You have a car.
You have
People.
keys to the house. You have a car, and you
All
have
your
parents that
all
don't
your
bother you.
coworkers have roommates or they live with their parents or
Yeah.
like and nobody has kids. Nobody has
Nope.
anything that they have to do other than work. And half the time you're like, I'm gonna roll in at 1 o'clock to work because
Mm-hmm.
I'm working till 10. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're like, so I don't even have to be up early. So after work, you go and you go out drinking or you go over to
Fucking
somebody
hang
else's
out,
drinking. Yeah.
man. Yep.
So there's those kind of relationships, but so yeah, single Mike was there was 2 categories for women, which was wants to fuck them or is blood related to them.
That is so funny that like you you because now you're not now
eh,
you're like a respectful gentleman.
I don't
Young
think I
Mike
was
sounded like a fucking dog, and I love that for you.
well. I
But
think
like,
so. I had moments where I was definitely like a fuck boy, but like, and it was not a particularly nice guy about it. But I don't think it lasted long. There was a decent amount of time where I think I was a romantic who like wanted like I
oh, you were a milady. You were a nice guy, but not the bad kind. Because you've said this on a podcast before.
yeah I
You
was
you
if I
had
had if
if
I
I
was
was
10
with you,
years
I'd never
younger
treat you like that. I would make you
yeah
suck my dick because
yeah
because I'm not mean.
if I were 10 years younger I would have been an incel for sure.
Oh, I
Like
could see it too. I would have been too.
like
Don't
I
worry.
because in my like teens I was definitely like I'm a nice guy. Girls
Hmm.
don't like nice guys, but there wasn't like a
I
forum
didn't
for
go there.
me. There wasn't a forum for me to like to get a bunch of other nice guys to be like let's just
But we
realize
hate
that
women together.
women are just vessels for our children. Like I was never I never had the online community to build me into that piece of shit.
You
So I
mean
was
groom
just
you
like,
into a Discord mod
yeah.
with a very specific fedora collection?
So I never had that side of things, but I was, and then so I moved to college. I moved to college, and within like a week or two of being at college, I had a girlfriend, and it was a non-sexual relationship for a couple weeks, and then and then
I did not know where that was going.
and then
I had a girlfriend. It was a non-sexual relationship. What?
well, it was a romantic relationship,
We
and
mentally
and
fucked.
and we were both virgins, and we just didn't. I don't think we didn't
Oh,
even kiss, and then we broke up pretty quick because it was
you
started
didn't know what
quick,
to
ended
do.
quick, and then within 2 weeks of breaking up with her, I was in a relationship that was sexual within
She made you cocky. She made you confident that you could close with the next chick because you didn't close with her.
I don't think that's true. I think I
Ah,
think I
within 2 weeks of breaking up with one girl as a virgin,
I
you were
broke
with
up with
another
her.
girl and you closed.
I broke up with her because I liked the other girl, and then the other girl and I were
You
together.
are a dog.
But we were, yeah, and then I was with that other girl for 3.5 years.
Oh,
And
because that makes you a gentleman.
and then when
I
we
love
broke
it.
up, so there was that 3.5 year relationship. Then there was about 3.5 years of single or very short relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and and in there I was a whole spectrum of I wouldn't say I was ever like a super gentleman, but there were moments where I was fine, and then there was
Yeah.
moments where I was a piece of shit. And then I met Sarah, and we're
And now
14,
current Mike was born.
and yeah, and Sarah came into so my that 3.5 year relationship that I was in. She and I had a weird relationship.
Did
Pretty
it start one-sided? Because you were
no,
super into her.
we were in we I like I thought I was going to marry her. Like we were
That's
in
what I
the
mean. You were super
but
into her from the very get.
so it was one-sided sexually. Like she did
Okay.
not enjoy sex with me. At the time I was her first, she was my first. We kind of I think both thought that she just didn't enjoy sex that much.
Wait, was Sarah the one after the chick in college?
No, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the 3.5 years. I didn't realize you meant
Oh.
Sarah.
Oh.
No, 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 no. So no, no. So we Sarah would have been a legal child at the time a lot of this was happening because we're 4 years different, and I was 19, so she would have been 15. So no, Sarah is not. Sarah and I met when she was 22 and I was 26. Uh, it was completely above board. So just so we're clear on that, there was no grooming involved in that.
Nope, nope,
Um,
nope. Michigan exploited children does not need to be contacted. Everybody, we are okay.
yeah, but it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, it's okay in retrospect because they're married for 14 years. No, like at the time I met her, she was in all the ways that we consider. I mean, I know that like we don't consider adults till they're like 25, 26 brain wise, but like she was 22 and
Yep.
I was only 26. So it wasn't like she was 22 and I was 40.
So
You
let's
know,
so
so like
that is the Sarah part. What's
so,
the one with the chick after the
okay. So that was
so what are we gonna call this? Virgin version 2.
yeah. She and I were both virgins. We very quickly weren't virgins together, and we started dating, and in that process of that relationship, I was very horny a lot, and she was not really ever horny. So the first year or so, I think it was like keeping up with me, and then it slowly
Yeah.
faded. And within that, by that time, it was like, well, we were living apart, and so she would say we agreed at one point to be like open, and neither of us did anything about that. I think that was more so that I could feel okay.
I was about to say younger kids committing to open relationships is the weirdest sounding thing to me.
I think, yeah, it was like when like everyone knows that like 17-year-old who's like engaged, and they're not really ever going to get married. I think our open relationship was that you don't know that person. Everyone knows like
Oh,
a
oh
17-year-old
no.
girl who's like, we're going to get married. He gave me a ring, and you're like, yeah, it's like $150. You were the guy.
I was just about to say you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
I remember being told by the clerk at the Michaels Jewelers in Bristol, Connecticut when I bought that ring. I remember being told, this is not an engaged ring. I'm like, okay.
But
I was always like, I've already made my mind up what this is gonna be for me, so don't
yeah,
care about you. And that was before I went off to college. And that's how I'd met Dave Matthews.
yeah. So
So
we were in this. Sorry. So we were in this relationship where that was like open. And when I say open, I would go to the strip club a lot. I would
why do you need an
watch.
open relationship to go to the gentleman's club?
No, but like we just had like this wild like relationship where she didn't want to have sex and I was constantly horny. So I'd go back to the dorm or my apartment and finish myself and so there was a lot of that going on at the time, and she didn't give a shit. Like if I was like, if were out in public and I was like, holy crap, did you see her, holy crap, did you see her? So where I was starting to go with this was when I started dating Sarah, I had some of these bad habits still of like, holy fuck, look at the ass on her. And Sarah quickly was like, look, you're a person and you're attracted
You're
to
a
other
person.
you're attracted to
Person.
other people, and I get that, but like, don't be a douchebag about it. So she was like, let's not have your head twist every time. Like, just try to be like a normal, like,
Try to be
so,
casually
so,
creepy.
so, so Sarah was just like, oh no, it's more like, just don't be disrespectful to me by
Yeah.
being like, holy crap, look at the jugs on that, So
What are you, your Uncle Richard? Because everybody has an Uncle Ricky that talks like that.
yeah, so
Mine was Uncle Carter, but I mean,
that was a big thing that I think like where you think I'm such a gentleman comparatively. I think a lot of it is that Sarah was like, look, a lot of these things are natural to have in your head. That doesn't mean you have to be like titties, 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 titties.
so what you're saying is you don't have to let the intrusive thoughts control
Yeah,
your neck.
and so Sarah like just did like a good job of being like, hey, we're gonna get you house trained so that you're not peeing on the floor every time you come inside.
I like I was really sexually active in comparison to now, but also in comparison to just what I think my peers were when I was in my 20s and my teens, in fact, as well. I lost my virginity when I was quite young in comparison to to my peers, because I was just so interested and so fascinated by all of it. I was like, I'm not trying to get off. This is just interesting. Because,
How
again,
old was the partner?
the person that
Same age as you?
no,
Much
no,
older?
yes, yep. I was 13 and she was 17.
Okay.
So considerably older and actually technically statutory rape. And I think no, this was 100% like, ooh, it's fascinating. Your body does stuff when I touch it. Like I'm genuinely not like trying to minimize how great it was, because it was great. But for me, it was just like it's fascinating. And again, that obsessive nature with my handicap, it was fascinating. It was interesting. It was, it does stuff, and it does stuff differently than mine. Like, it was childlike fascination. It wasn't a mature, like, and now, admittedly, because of the obsessive nature, I was probably the most versed 13-year-old she had ever gotten hard in her entire life, because I was probably much more mature than most of her partners, which is why it wasn't the first or last time we had sex. But then she started to feel weird about it, and she realized that it was kind of hard to have me as a social friend as well. Shocker. And that did not continue. But the whole like one-sidedness of it, it was even there too. Like my sex partners when I was younger were even one-sided. And what was weird is it wasn't me getting off, because I'm going to blow all your minds. You're the best fuck you're ever going to have. You know how to get you off better than anybody else does. And that's probably never going to change. But I knew how to do that already. So in classic obsessive nature, I've solved the puzzle of getting me off. That's boring now. It's routine. I want to go do that for other people. So my one-sided relationship was, I thought all of my worth was my sexual ability. So for me, my partners, it was always about them. Like, I didn't even care if I got offals. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because I thought I brought so little else to the table, because I was kind of rocky at a lot of the other relationship parts, because I'm not romantic. I was definitely not observant. I was just this hopeless ball of energy that just had to go do something with it. And if it meant getting you off, fuck yeah, man. Like, and I know dudes have said it, but I never had a partner that wasn't at least sexually satisfied. I ran them off for all the other reasons, which is embarrassing.
I have never had a woman fake an orgasm with me.
That she's told you.
I
No,
can
I'm kidding.
I can confidently say
I believe
that
you.
because I've never ever had a woman claim that I gave her an orgasm. See,
I mean, I've never had to fake one with you.
I made that joke to Matthew one time, and before I could get the punchline out, he knew the he was executing the punchline with. It's the downside of having Matthew as a friend, is that, like, sometimes you can't get him
Can't
with a
pull it
joke.
off. Nope.
But he was like, "Oh, because they never bother." I'm like, "Fuck."
Yep. Look, those of you that are audio and video listeners, even if you never see everything that Matthew does, Matthew just relishes getting us to break character.
Mm-hmm.
It is something his improv nature enjoys.
Mm-hmm.
It is something his personality enjoys. It is something his, like, mild narcissism enjoys. He likes, like, getting people riled up, but in, like, an enjoyable way for him. And him pulling that joke punchline off before you could say it is
hilarious.
I've only known this guy for like 9 months, and that's absolutely some shit he'd do, without a doubt.
Yep.
I think right now wrap up is imminent, because we're actually an hour and 3 minutes.
And I'm starving.
So yeah, and actually I've been eating the peas off of this one by one, like, while we've been talking, and
nice.
and chopsticks.
You've been taking a pee?
Yeah, really, I've been taking multiple peas while I've been sitting here. I haven't even had to get up.
Nice.
So I really think that one-sided friendships, they don't do it. Ready? Here's my closing. One-sided friendships sound bad because they are bad unless they have somewhere to go. Example, when I was trying to grow a relationship, when I wronged that person that I was close to before, like when I missed that call when she had to put her dog down.
Mm-hmm.
If you are walking into a one-sided relationship and you're getting all of this benefit, and that person is just up your butt trying to please you, red flag.
Yeah.
If you are walking into a relationship, friend or otherwise, and you just can't wait to be doing everything with them, everything for them, everything about them, but you don't feel there's reciprocation, red flag. You've got to talk about these, because otherwise, no matter your age, gender, position in life, or just scale of your entire existence, you're wasting your time. Either you're wasting their time getting all of this out without giving anything back, or worse, you're giving all of this away, but you don't, and I had a coworker tell me this, you don't know your worth. You are unaware of what you're bringing to them, and it's hurting the both of you. It's not teaching them a lesson to the person that's getting all the benefit, and you're not learning the lesson from giving them all that benefit.
Yeah, I agree. I think a way that I'm looking at it right now too is a one-sided relationship seems bad, but it also, like, if it's natural, it's okay. For example, there are times in my relationship with Matthew, and I wish he was here to he would not give me the satisfaction of giving me a genuine answer, but he would make jokes. But there are times where I've relied on him, and there have been very few times where he's relied on me. But I think that's
y'all's dynamic.
But I also think that I've made it.
That's y'all's dynamic.
I think that's because he hasn't needed to, and so that's a more natural
I think he
thing.
enjoys
Yeah,
that he hasn't needed to, and I think he enjoys that that's what he provides you.
right.
And I'm serious, like that's not one-sided. To me,
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
one-sided. You might feel a little like that, and I can feel and I can understand that. But I think for him, that's what he enjoys being for you.
yeah.
He's
I agree.
getting something out of it, Mike. It's
Yeah,
just
I
not
think
like you said, he's not there for me. But you would be, and maybe that's all he ever needs to notice.
right, and
Is that
that's what I
if he had to need some help, you're in his driveway in a minute. You,
that's what I've been trying to make peace with in my own head. And then also say, as far as the other situation, sometimes one-sided relationship is just a sign that the relationship has run its course,
it's run its
and
course.
one of you
I
is
was
having a
thinking
hard
that too.
time. One of you is having a hard time, and you know that friend that I mentioned earlier that we had kind of faded, and he was one of my groomsmen, and we've kind of faded. Like if I saw him out at a bar or something, I would absolutely go over and hang out with him but I'm not. A, we live 600 miles apart, and B, like we're just not running in the. I don't go out drinking, but like there are no hard feelings. There's no animosity on my end, at least. I don't think there are any on his, and it's just it kind
Yeah.
of just it ended naturally, and I was the one who was having a hard time letting that
It
go
would.
because that
It was
felt
the
like a
retribution. It
failure
was
on
the
my
fear.
part,
Yeah.
because I think that I have a very binary. I I think about like the same way that people think about marriage as like if a marriage ends in divorce and not death, it is a failure, and it's like, well, sometimes it's just natural, and I think that I had to come to that conclusion,
Sounds exhausting.
and I think that I had to come to that conclusion with friendships too. Like, yeah, sometimes a friendship is just going to run its course, and like I didn't, the people I'm thinking of all in all these cases, it was, as far as I know, it was not a fight. It was not something that I did. It was just a naturally like, okay, it faded to black,
Yeah.
and I was just kind of being like the end credit scene, being like, well, wait, there's more,
Oh
you know?
gosh. No, I, 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 I can feel that,
Yeah,
but at the same time, now that we're adults and we can look at it that way, you're hurting each other.
yeah,
You're just maybe not aware of it. So just as I was mentioning that you can fuck you better than anybody else, you know you better than anybody else.
yeah,
Regardless of what your mind, regardless of what your friends tell you, you know you best. If something doesn't feel right, there's a good chance you're right about it or you're going to learn something from it.
hmm
Just check the relationship and have an open dialogue about it. Do
hmm
you really think they might not be feeling the same thing? Hey, it feels like
yeah,
when we hang out. It feels like when we talk on the phone. What's it like
hmm
for you? Just
yeah,
let them tell you. You
yeah,
might you might be giving them such a sign of relief.
yeah,
It's been a pleasure talking with you.
yeah.
I enjoy I enjoy this episode 101 in the can.
Before we log
Parker,
off, though, I want to just say, anybody that's listening or watching, please go onto YouTube and give us a subscribe, give the
oh
video
yeah,
a like,
please.
and a comment. The subscribe's really important right now.
Yeah,
We've been getting some growth, and if you go and subscribe, which all you need is a Gmail account. You probably have YouTube on your phone or whatever. Anyway, just go
that's
on
true.
and hit the subscribe button. It would be super helpful. All that little growth will help us to just keep snowballing forward. Uh,
The
if you
only
are
kind of
listening,
content we put out are videos and shorts. So we're not going to be blowing up your community tab. We're not going to be
yeah,
sending you a
it's
dozen
episodes you're listening to
notifications.
anyway.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, do that. If you can go on to your, if you're listening on regular podcasting app, give us a like. That would be great, or a
write a
review
review.
if you can. And then if for some reason you actually feel the need to give us money, you can do that at patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. We have $1, $3, and $10 options there. The $1 option gets you everything a few days early, and it gets you access to these live streams.
Where you could get in the chat and talk with us.
And you can get in the chat and talk with us. So that's basically all I've got, and I just wanted to let you know.
I appreciate y'all tuning in. You're going to hear my voice once again for the bump on the way out. I appreciate y'all coming out. And now Mike and I are going to go eat. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. If you have thoughts or questions or topics you'd like us to tackle in a future episode, drop us a line on our social media channels. Engage with this video when you are now watching it as a VOD on YouTube. Send us an email. We love hearing from our listeners, bringing us topics, because if you leave it up to the three of us, we're going to eventually be talking about underwater basket weaving. So we would appreciate you guys reaching out a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe to Talking About the Big Stuff on your favorite platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Engage with it. Criticize us. We need to grow and be better, and you're going to help us be there. You're going to help us get to that point. It really helps us more to reach out and also to keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more big ideas and more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep talking about the big stuff.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.